Hey guys, how are ya? Let me know if you can hear me. Testing, testing, testing. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Please in the comments, if you can hear me, let me know. And so I know everybody can hear me. And then I'll jump into the discussion. And then we'll do a little Q&A about whatever questions come up, related to the subject or not. So, all right. So I'm just going to wait. Loud and clear. All right, good. So everybody can hear me. That's fantastic. So a question was put to me a little while ago about, well, I'll just read the question out and then I'll proceed to give my answer and we'll take it from there. So somebody said, Steph, in 2024, what will the difference between a programmer, a coder, and a prompt engineer be? So I'll lead with the conclusion. I think that these roles, in a sense, will merge to a certain degree. So coders will be using prompts as they use code editors and IDEs. So yeah, so AI is going to be integrated into workflows, whether they are a coder, a programmer, or a prompt engineer. So I would throw programmer in the same category as developer. So what's the difference between a developer and a strict coder? A developer writes code, but a coder is not necessarily a developer. So you could have somebody who is a coder who, for example, uses Python code to write out scripts for a video editing engine where you're managing a whole bunch of servers via Python code. That be a coder. So they're writing code, but they're not actually developing an application. On the other hand, you have a developer who would be using Python with for example, with say Python Django, which is Python's full stack framework, and they will actually be developing an app. The big difference between a coder and developer, a coder is basically just writing code, whereas a developer is creating a piece of software or system, and we'll be using different pieces of software, coming up with architectural solutions, if you will. So for a developer, code is one of the tools that they will use in the process. They could use libraries and frameworks and AI. So how about a prompt engineer? Well, I was just looking at it briefly. A prompt engineer is basically somebody who knows how to write essentially concise English, feeding good questions, good prompts to the AI to elicit a good response. That's what a prompt engineer is. So for me, a prompt engineer is almost like a new type of developer, if that makes any sense. So for example, well, let me just read what I wrote here, and then we can take it from there. Hold on, let me get rid of this. Boom. So something I wrote here very briefly. Developers, programmers will use AI, but giving code is only a part. Let me just turn down this music a little bit here. Let me try again. But giving code is only a part of what they do. AI will be much more of an assistive tool as compared to how tightly integrated AI will be with simple coding. I would consider prompt engineering to be a new language in a sense. Think of it. New programming languages like Python, for example, were designed to provide a level of abstraction over traditional system-level languages like C to make it easier for coders to complete a particular task. When you write code of a high-level language like Python, Ruby, JavaScript, or even Java or C#, these high-level languages are taking care of a lot of plumbing that a coder developer does not have to concern themselves with. Example, memory allocation. So prompt engineering with AI can be seen as providing a similar service. So prompt engineering, again, as I was suggesting, it's a new type of development, a new type of, for lack of better terms, I guess, a new type of coding, I guess you can call it. So there you go. So going forward, what will be the difference between the prompt engineer, the coder, and the programmer? Well, I think the coder, again, AI will be integrated into the workflows of coders and programmers. Prompt engineer, though, will not necessarily be concerned about writing the code, but rather concerned about writing the prompts to elicit good responses from the AI. So I look at prompt engineering as just a different type of developer, if you will. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Very short subject, I think. We will now get into a little bit of the Q&A and take it from there. So, all right, first let's do housekeeping. Marwan, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Mr. Mickey the Mouse. There's an emerging role called AI engineer as well. Yes, I'm sure. Okay, good, everything's loud and clear. Hello, Steph. I got a couple of your online courses to learn front end plus PHP. What AI tools do you recommend for me to start using and why? I already use ChatGPT. Well, I would finish the courses first so you get familiar with code, you get comfortable with code. And then, you know, I would get, like, maybe if you're using VS Code as your code editor, see if, I don't know, if Microsoft, I'm sure, has implemented ChatGPT in there or some other AI tool. There's something with my microphone. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Let me know. Can you guys hear me clearly or not? Let me know in the comments. Somebody said that they're having trouble with the sound. Yes, I'm going to wait to see if you guys can hear me clearly in terms of the microphone or not. And we'll take it from there. And so I'm just waiting for comments from you guys. Also, if I appreciate the thumbs up if you like this type of stream. It's good for the Google algorithms, of course. So, well, I'm going to put it in the comments just in case this guy's throwing me off. Can you hear me? So you can hear me now? All right, good. Maybe the mic. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, just let me know in the comments if the audio falls off. Yeah, that's good now. Okay, that's interesting. Did you miss much? Was much of my audio garbled? See, I'm on the road here, so I'm using my on-the-road setup as opposed to my pro mic, so that's the problem. When you're using the on-the-road stuff, you can have little glitches like this. Yeah. Okay, you can hear me. It's fine now. Good now. Okay, good. Okay. So, yeah, if you have any questions about this subject or anything else in general, let me know. You can put them in. I pretty much covered it. Again, the difference between a programmer, coder, and a prompt engineer. They're this, like I think coder programmer or coder developer, we know the difference there. I just discussed that. And prompt engineer is this, I guess I would characterize it a new type of development, a new style of development, a high level or AI level language of development, if you will, if that makes any sense. When you move your head on right is a problem. That's interesting. All right, so we'll see how this goes like this. Got the mic right here, that's why. All right, so I think we're good. So, yeah, that's about it for the AI stuff. Yeah, what was that question I got about? Is it worth learning to code? Yeah, it is. It's coding is going to be around for quite some time unless AI makes some huge leaps and bounds in the near future, which I don't think it will. As I discussed before, we've seen that big AI move has hit the scene now. And just like with smartphones, when Apple came out with the first touchscreen smartphone, you know, the smartphones have gotten faster and bigger, and cameras are better. But if you think about the functionality between the original iPhone and this one here, it's not that huge of a difference. It's not like a massive difference. It's just a little faster. They're faster. They're bigger. You know, better cameras, but not much. You know what I mean. It's not like it's not like a huge revolution. So I think for AI to go from where it is now to becoming some to be able to write code and replace coders, it's going to be difficult for that to happen. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. AI will automate many internal struggles where a few will have an overview of a running factory operation, which is awesome. Well, AI will take care of some of the grunt work stuff, you know? Like instead of having to spend half an hour searching on Google for something or through Stack Overflow, you'll be able to get to answers far more quickly with the AI. So I think that's the one of the big advantages there. But again, it's not going to replace developers. The CEO of NVIDIA had me shook. Yeah, I read what he wrote. I'm not sure what he's talking about, you know. It's like, I'm a developer for 3 decades. I'm not sure what he's saying there. He could be just a CEO who hasn't touched code in 30 years, and maybe he's thinking about writing one-liner of code for hardware. But I just don't see it in software development. All right. I wouldn't be too worried about it. YN. Do you think companies that go hard into AI are going to regret laying off so much talent, reputation issues from future developers? I think a lot are making huge mistakes. No, I think I don't see them laying off tons of developers. Again, I've talked about this before, man. I've seen this cycle before in technology, where new tech comes in, causes a shift in the industry, where certain developers or certain types of coders rather get laid off, but they just, you know, they just pivot into other things. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. There are also devs that integrate LLMs and other tools into the stack. Yeah, for sure, man. Sharon Brandau says, hey, Stefan, I'm currently working as a web dev in a company here in Germany. Your course content put me on track when I was still doing freelance work. The legacy materials are gold. Well done. Hey, man, I appreciate the shout out to my content. I update those courses when I need to, but fortunately for me, HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, PHP, Python, SQL, it hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. And what I teach is, I design it to be evergreen. So, yeah. You are right, Steph. I guess we have an agreement in terms of what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can zoom this out. Hold on. All right, there we go. Yeah, so there you go. So just in case you don't know, I'm in my Florida location right now, but I'm going to be heading back home to Montreal fairly soon. So yeah, once I get there, hopefully I'll have more time to do what I typically do. Problem is, when you come down south to a beach community, everybody and their neighbor wants to come and visit you, and then you become host, and it takes up so much time. I like that your background is blurred. The 116-year-old Steph is in the focus. Oh yeah. That's it. You gotta have a good video, right? Good video. Anyway, how are we doing here? All right, guys. Well, that's it. So, any other questions? I am an IT help desk guy with no degree, trying to get into cybersecurity. Found interest learning C and assembly and programming boards. What language should I learn next? Well, look at what they're going to be looking for in terms of languages, a particular job you're interested in getting. Look at what they require. You know, assembly is very different from other languages. It's very different from C. It's very different from the modern languages. So choose wisely if you want to get into assembly, that's for sure. Hey, how are you, man? Hope everything is well. Yeah, no worries. Happy to answer the questions. If you don't mind, guys, if you're new, haven't given me a thumbs up, please give the stream a thumbs up so the algorithm knows that you value the live stream. That would be appreciated. Yeah, so what else could I talk to you about besides that? Well, that's it. Pretty simple. final piece of advice about AI: don't fear it, just embrace it. I'm actually adding AI modules to my mentoring program. Show, just basically outlines of how to look at AI and how to integrate it in your development and coding world. It's just a tool. It's nothing to be too concerned about. My favorite programming language are PHP, C++, Python, JavaScript. Very good, cool. Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm facing it difficult to learn C Sharp after using Python for 2 years. How can I learn them? Any recommendations? Just to learn, just learn them like you learn any other languages. Pick one, and then learn that one, and then move on from there. Just write the code until it makes sense. Hey, how are you, man? Some old faces I recognize. Yeah, W3 School is a good place. Once you have your basics down, then you can go to a site like W3 Schools, use ChatGPT, and then you can start honing your skills. But you don't want to get caught up trying to learn everything out there in the tech world because you'll be a forever student. You want to get to the point where you have enough skill so that you can then get paid to learn. That's what you want to do. Yeah. Do you think help desk is a way to get your foot in the door? Maybe. I don't think it's great necessarily. You could start and ask, maybe by creating contacts in the company, maybe. The best thing to do is try to get your foot in the door as like a junior developer or something, like on stage or something. But if you need the money and you think you can make friends with the development side of the business, then why not? Is the market oversaturated for software engineering? No, I don't believe so. Not at all. Not at all. Don't worry about that. Yeah, don't panic. Don't panic. You can watch other videos on my YouTube where I talk about this over and over again. It's not, people are panicking a little bit unnecessarily, Is learning calculus important for programming? The only time you have to learn anything beyond basic math for development and programming is if you are getting into AI research, you're getting into maybe game engine development or big data processing. These are very niche types of development. It's not common. So I wouldn't be learning calculus unless you plan on getting into those specializations. Now, again, when I'm talking about AI development, I'm not talking about using AI. I'm talking about actually trying to create AI, which most of us won't. Most of us will be consumers of the AI tools. So yeah, I wouldn't get into it unless I really wanted to get into a specialization. There's a bunch of myths out there about what you need to be a developer, and math is one of those myths. Math is not very important for most development. 99% of development, and I'll say it again, 99% of development, there's very little math involved. Very little math involved. So I wouldn't be too concerned, especially calculus. Yeah, a lot of schools, by the way, they create these requirements, like you need calculus to get into computer science, and you need calculus to get into business administration, because they're just creating false requirements. Hello, Uncle Steph. I'm thinking of focusing on Python as my go-to language and get deeper into it with projects. The advice I'm getting from people around here, my professors and other professionals. Well, it depends on the type of jobs that you want. What I would do is start searching the job market in your area, see if they're actually using a lot of Python. That said, let's say you do learn Python and you develop a bunch of skill with Python, and you find out that there's a lot of jobs in C# or PHP, for example. For you to pivot from Python to C# will be very, very simple, because development is development, and the differences between the languages, like the difference between Python and C# is maybe 20%. The syntax is a little different, but the hard part is the concepts, right? And understanding the nuances of the languages. So once you understand methods and functions and collection types and iteration and inheritance and all that kind of stuff in Python. When you go over to C#, you already pretty much know all those things, right? So you just have to learn the differences in terms of how C# would implement that, right? Make sense? All right, symbolic. What do you think about MS level CS conversion programs offered in UK or USA, similar programs? Have you met somebody with this degree? I don't have CS, I'm not sure, I don't know what the CS conversion program is. So, yeah. How would I increase my speed of a select search query using like clause if I already use, how would I increase my speed of a select search query using like clause if I already use indexes? I'm struggling with that. What else could be done for scaling? That's a very interesting question. Yeah, you're already using indexes. Off the top of my head, you might, well, one thing you could do is you could store that query as a stored procedure, stored proc, and then hit the stored procedure because it will be pre-optimized. It will be an optimized query. So that's what I would do. So instead of doing a direct select, create a stored procedure to execute that query, and then hit that stored procedure. So it's a compiled query, so it's going to be faster. It could be significantly faster. Most programming ID cruddy. I'm not sure what you mean with that. What's your opinion on using Docker? Very resource intensive, better to create cross-platform apps. You know what? Like so many things, man, it really comes down to the particular situation. I would have to know more details about the project and the scope of the project and so forth. Yeah, there you go. That's your answer. Generally speaking, though, hardware resources are fairly cheap relative to what they used to be. So, unless you have very, very high, like huge user base on the app where you're going to be using up a lot of resources, it might be cheaper, much cheaper, just to use Docker as opposed to creating cross-platform apps. Again, I guess it depends on how many users you have. For context, I work with PHP currently in France for studies. Java and Python seem to be high here. Thanks for the wisdom. Yeah, so look into it. Look into France. You're part of France, Paris, Lyon, quelque chose comme ça. Check wherever you happen to be, and Marouane. And based on the job opportunities, make your choice accordingly. Best way to show your knowledge without having a degree and landing a job. Do work for small businesses. I talk about this all the time. Put up a website of your own that makes sure it looks good so you can then profile the work that you've done for small business, nonprofit, that kind of thing. I understand that AI will not replace developers, but do you think it could reduce the number of developers? I don't think so. I don't think so. I use MySQL, stored procedure, thanks to, sorry for my English. No worries, no worries. Yeah, get back on the stream one day and let us know if that worked out for you. Yeah, as developers, one of the old battles in the development community was between the development side and the database side. Whereas developers, they have this prejudice. It's kind of built in. You're in the mindset, rather, of being a software developer. And you think about, okay, you think about queries and you think about data, you think about using software, using code to somehow speed up things. And a lot of times developers will ignore the power of the relational database system that you have in front of you. You have an RDBMS in front of you. It has all kinds of capabilities for optimization. So indexes is just one thing. The stored procedure is another thing. You could also play with the query itself, but I would have to look at the table. I would have to look at the query language, the SQL, do the stored proc. Yeah. Hello, Uncle Steph. Is machine learning AI a driving force to go deep into Python? It's one of them. Python is used all over the place. It's used a lot in academics, used in big data science. It's used in machine learning. It depends, you know. Piggyback on the MySQL question, are stored procedures better than directly storing the queries as strings within an application? Again, this is a, how should I say this? Whether to use stored procedures is more of a maintenance issue, because you have to go into the database, the RDBMS, and you have to go in there and modify your queries in there, as opposed to having it all within your application. So a little extra work there. There's a theoretical downside to using stored procedures in that you're bound to the database. Let's say you're using MySQL and you want to migrate at some point to PostgreSQL. Then you might have to rewrite some of the stored procedures. Whereas in theory, if you write, I think it's ANSI compliant SQL, universal SQL, it's all self-contained within your application. If you migrate from database A to B, you won't have that issue. That all being said, in years and years of actively writing code, I think only once I migrated from one database, one DBMS to another. I went from MySQL to Microsoft's SQL Server. That was one time, so that doesn't happen. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Thanks for sharing info. Kwazebi the one. What career should I choose, electrician or software developer? Electrician will never be replaced by AI. That's also true. I just look at the job opportunities, dabble into it, you know, thing with any of the trades, it's physical, you have to go in there and you got to do stuff, whereas coding, you can, you know, sit at home. It's a personal choice, you know. There's nothing wrong with any of the trades. All right, guys, if you're new to the stream, my name is Uncle Steph. Welcome to the stream, Code Long and Profit. If you haven't hit the like, please give me the thumbs up. If you like this sort of stream, it's good for the algorithms. If you hate me, you hate my long hair, give me 2 thumbs down to show the people how much you hate me. I will let you know when you go online next time, Steph. Thanks for sharing your experience. Yeah, no worries. AWE Realm, all-round. Mobak just says, I was told that there is not much logic on the front end at an interview. For context, I work at a front end dev. They were worried because of that. Is this true? There's not much logic on the front end at an interview. Depends on the app. Some front end implementations are very complex, you know. Some aren't. Depends on what you're building, you know. But generally speaking, the front end is far simpler than back end. Generally, most web apps, but it depends. But I'm not sure how that impacts the interview. Guess it depends on what you're doing. Freelancers charging way too little. How to avoid the race to the bottom? Build reputation. Get really good at what you do, number one. So you get a great reputation. Number two, as you get really good at what you do, you develop really efficient workflows. So when you're first starting out as we'll call it web developer for now, or web designer, a particular job will take you, we'll say 10 hours. But as you get better, you get more experience, you're going to get quicker, you're going to solve problems more quickly, you're going to have good workflows in place, templates and frameworks that you're going to leverage, and all of a sudden, you know, what took you 10 hours to do with some experience in the workflows, all of a sudden you'll be able to get that down to 1 hour. So when you're competing with people who are much less efficient than you, you could bid lower and still make a lot of money and get the contract, just because what used to take you 10 hours now takes you 1 hour. That's how I did it. It works well. Hope that makes sense. Electrician for sure, way less school and high learning potential, harder work, but rewarding. You can get your foot in the door as an entry-level developer or coder in as little as 6 months, 6 to 12 months working part-time training, at least with my program. But as I said, there's nothing wrong with being an electrician, that's for sure. Whoa, what was that? You guys hearing something? I don't know. Hold on here. I'm working as a front end, but sometimes I'm touching the Perl backend code. Oh, good old Perl. I would like to slowly expand my knowledge towards the backend. Do you have a quick roadmap to recommend? Mic is bugging a bit. Okay, hold on a second. Let me try something. This will be more echoey, but let me know if this is clear for you guys. Using PHP PDO still rocks. Yeah. I think when you squish the mic against your clothes, the loud muffle would affect your sound. That's probably what it is. My apologies. Tell me if the mic is clearer now, by the way. Just put it in the comments. Sound is better now that I put the mic. Mic is here. Right here, all right. So, I'll just hold it like this for now. So, I like your stream. It's awesome and entertaining for me. Okay, very cool. I appreciate that. Appreciate the thumbs, everybody. It's good for the algos. What else do we have? Is Next.js still relevant? I don't know. I think it's a niche. It's a niche library. I haven't used it, so I don't know much about it. But I don't think it's going to get any bigger. Again, that's a need to nerd technology. I have two categories of technologies. I have the key fundamentals that everybody should know. And I have another column I call need to nerd, stuff that you learn based on jobs that come up. So what I learned Next.js, if a job comes up that requires it, then I would learn it. Know your JavaScript very well and your web stack very well. Know those fundamentals so that when you'll be able to judge more effectively whether or not Next.js makes sense to use given a particular project. I look at Docker in the same way. I look at React in the same way, Vue in the same way, PHP, Laravel, WordPress, all these tools. These are just tools that you learn when you need to learn them based on the needs of the job. So concentrate on those fundamentals, start doing job searches, start building little projects, and that's how you're going to figure out what to learn. World Philippines, hey man. Industrial automation mix both, but pharma is where the money is, followed by semiconductors, aerospace, food, oil, and gas. I think he's probably, World Philippines is probably talking about Python in that regard. Do you think QA is a good career to go into? Again, look at the job opportunities. I'm not a QA guy. Let's do job searches. Guys, if you're wondering about careers, there's two things you got to look at. Number one, do you like that type of work? And number two, what are the job opportunities? You may think that playing Call of Duty would be a fantastic career, but if there's no jobs in it, it's not a very good thing to get into. On the other hand, I don't know. There could be some job that pays a huge amount of money, but you just don't want to do it because you don't like it, right? So don't choose a job based on the money. Look at those two factors: what you like to do, and what are the opportunities in the industry. Yeah. Okay, hold on. My mentor has a server company which uses C# in the back end and Copilot for AI jobs. Oh, there you go. Very good. The mic is bugging a bit. Yeah, I got my portable mic here. It's my ghetto mic. I'm going to be heading back home where I should have brought my pro mics with me. It's hard to learn COBOL for experienced Java developers, more or less full stack, but mostly backend. Is it hard to learn COBOL? I don't know COBOL. That's a whole different thing. COBOL is the language, if you guys don't know, for mainframes. Very different. Hey, hi, Season. Hi, man. How you doing? Long time. I'm back. Sans hair. You should put your mic outside your hoodie. Maybe I'll try that. Hold on a second. Let's see how that goes. Let's see. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to do this. There we go. You guys let me know how that sounds. We'll see if that's better. David Connolly is a long PHP advocate, sees PHP jobs going away. Are PHP devs still finding work? Well, as far as I know, again, let's say you're a PHP dev and you do a lot of PHP and you do a lot of Laravel, and for whatever reasons, the jobs are disappearing in PHP. For you to pivot over to Python Django like this, JS, JavaScript with Express like this, it's not a big deal. So don't worry about that. The hard part about learning PHP Laravel is learning about MVC architectures and how to build good web apps. And those principles and techniques are applicable to all the major languages. Okay, it's clear, good. I think AI will make strides into automation, but as tools, validation. C. Siemens and Alan Bradley, PLC, SCADA, choose introduction for data centers. Another big money spinner. Oh, there you go. Sound is better. Okay, cool. Very clear. Good. Thanks for your feedback on that. I finally decided to use NeoVim. Holy crap, the workflow is way faster. Very cool. Okay, good. Sound is better. Sound is perfect. Better perfect. When you were holding it, thanks. Okay, yeah. Need to nerd. Oh my God, that's hilarious. That's one of my old principles. That's one of my old principles. You got to learn on a need to nerd basis. I even got the .com. Next.js is rather easy if you have some experience with React, though. Yeah, there you go. See that you're making my point, Mobak. If you know React, for you to move to another JavaScript library, this assumes that you know your JavaScript, of course. So if you know React, you know your JavaScript, you know your ES6. Be able to learn JS like this. You can't really choose a bad technology, because you could just pivot pretty quickly. I have knowledge in microcontrollers, programming, and electronics. Have done some freelance web projects. Is IoT a good field to dive in for me? Any suggestions you have, Uncle Steph? Again, look at the market, Look at the market. You'd be surprised, For example, look at Ruby, my little Ruby, the little language called Ruby that I make fun of all the time. The fact of the matter is, even though it's a niche, a hyper niche technology, and it's not growing, it's probably dying, but it's going to take years and years before it dies out. And meanwhile, Ruby developers make a lot of money. So, if there's IoT job opportunities for you, then jump into it. If you like that kind of coding, jump into it. Even if there's not a lot of jobs, it's always, you got to weigh the number of jobs versus the number of developers in the field, right? Shavir Amis Eslir, I don't know if I said that right. Hello? What do you think about using AI to do all the things a dev can't do, and using it to do solo dev startup or something like that, using it to aid with business marketing, etc.? Why not? I think that's how you got to position AI. You use it to help you speed up the process. That's an interesting question. The first part of the question is trying to understand what you mean. What do you think about using AI to do all the things a dev can't do? Oh, you mean stuff you can't do? We got to be careful with AI right now because they hallucinate. You ask it a question, you say, hey, can you do this? And it will go, yeah, sure, here it is, and it's wrong. Happens all the time. It's called AI hallucinations. So common, they have a term for it, hallucinations. It could help. It's just a tool, man. It could help. Python is too slow at the moment. Great hopes for Mojo, but library support's not there. I want to web scrape and such in engineering data compiled fast as C, C++. Have you looked at Rust? What are your thoughts about CSS frameworks? For serious projects, well, actually, they're pretty good, Like, as a general rule, like, you stay native, and then you introduce frameworks because the native implementation is not as, it's not there for you. So, for example, simple framework Bootstrap, came out years ago because CSS for page layout was really, really bad. And so when you use Bootstrap, it made it so much easier. So it made sense. Now, though, with CSS Grid in Flexbox, it makes layout really, really easy. So you may not need to use Bootstrap, although Bootstrap is still widely used. CSS frameworks they're good. They can save a lot of time. The mic has been fine since you moved it. All right, so I was just stuck in my jacket there. Is Flutter good for cross-platform mobile app development, or is it better to learn Swift and Kotlin? Depends on the pack. It depends on the application. If you're doing a lot of text-heavy based cross-platform mobile apps, then Flutter may be more than enough for that. Even a responsive website will be good. On the other hand, if you're doing a lot of screen repainting, or you need to access some of the hardware on the phone that you may not be able to with Flutter, you'd have to look into that. I'm not sure how good that is yet. Then you might have to jump into Swift or Kotlin. The problem with writing native code, this is for mobile, so just so people who may not understand Deepak's question. So Swift is the programming language used for iOS development, for writing native apps for iPhones and iPads and Mac OS. And Kotlin is now the preferred language to write native Android apps. Now, when you write native, you're writing specifically for that particular piece of hardware. So Kotlin for Android, Swift for iOS, for iPhone, iPad. And when you write native, you have full access to the hardware, right? And you have maximum speed. It's very efficient. Whereas Flutter is a framework that Google developed. It allows you to have one code base that works both on iPhones and Android devices, whereas if you wrote your app in Swift, then you would have to rewrite it from scratch in Kotlin for Android. So that's twice as much work. You got two different types of developers you need there, two different code bases to maintain, so it's expensive. So cross-platform solutions like Flutter, like a simple responsive website, Velar, PWAs, progressive web apps, those are the preferred route to explore first. So if I have a project that comes to me for mobile, Steph, some company comes to me and says, Uncle Steph, we need to develop an app, and we need to work on both Android and iOS, and here are the specs. So I look at the specs, and based on the specs, based on what they need for the project, the first thing I would do is I would see whether or not I could do it cross-platform to save a lot of time and money. If I couldn't, because I don't know, it's a game. There's a gaming app where we need the maximum power, or we need to access some aspect of the hardware on the device that only native code will be able to will allow you access. Then I would just go there. But my first step is to see whether you can do a cross-platform with Flutter. So to answer your question, depends on the project, right? James. Hey, James, how are you? Oh, wrong symbol. Code long and profit. So you got the blurry hand. If you watch a stream and they don't have blurry hands like this, not pro. Steph, if you are a freelancer, Steph, if you are a freelancer, do clients care what framework you use? 99% of the time, no. Because as a freelancer, usually you're dealing with small business. Small business have no idea the difference between a Swift and a Kotlin and a lens cap. They just don't know. So you can make those choices. That said, if you are a responsible freelancer, you're not going to use hyper niche technologies where it's going to be hard for them to maintain, just in case you disappear, you decide to go on vacation in Bali for 6 months, and they need to update it. And if you use some niche tech, it's going to cause all kinds of problems for them. And I'll give you an example of how Uncle Steph did that to somebody, not intentionally. So we're going to go way back in time before most of you were born. And so we're back in the early 90s, and I was doing freelance gigs, and I was doing a variety of gigs, mostly programming and web and otherwise. But once in a while, I would do other types of gigs. So one of the gigs I did, let's see if I can get this in place. Hold on. How does this go? Okay. So one of the gigs I did was I laid out a bunch of books, kids' books, for a toy company. I don't know how I got there. Through a friend, I got the gig. So I said, yeah, I know how to use what's a layout. I forget what they called it. I forget what they called it. Anyway, so I knew how to use software to lay out pages. I'm a graphic designer by training. So I used this product called Corel, which was non-standard. And I laid out all the books in Corel. So then I sent all these, and it's a lot of work. Big job. Back in the day, it was a big job. So I laid it all out in Corel. It took like 2 months to get it all done. And I outputted the files. And then when they took those files to get printed, to get them printed, to get the books printed in Hong Kong, of all places, they couldn't get the files to film. They couldn't get it to work. So they were stuck with all this work I had done in a non-mainstream file type, and they were stuck with them. So the gig got kicked back to me, so I had to find somebody in town who could actually process these unusual files. And I did. I had to go searching around. It turned out to be a pretty good gig, actually. Back in early 90s, so I made like, in about a month, I made about 30 grand on that gig. This is 1990s money, Pretty good working part-time. But basically, because I had used some niche technology that very few people used, my client was stuck. Whereas if I would have used the mainstream everybody was using at the time, something called Quark Express, then they wouldn't have been stuck. So yeah, there's that story. Don't use technology that is hyper niche. All right, what's going on? AI may get in trouble as people who own the raw data want to get paid. Well, that's actually happening. The two things that make AI effective are the data that trains the AI and how much CPU you can throw at it. That's pretty much it. That's the key. So you are correct about that. Hey, Steph, I'm a coder programmer and use ChatGPT sometimes when I'm stuck and don't know something. Is this okay? I'm having imposter syndrome. No, man. Welcome to the world of development. There's no developer in the world who knows everything. In fact, in all honesty, I literally have forgotten much more. Like right now, I know I've forgotten so much what I used to know because I just don't use it. So that's okay. That's why you had code editors and code completion. That's why I used to tell people, that's why you have Google. If you don't remember something, just Google it. So ChatGPT is just Google on steroids. So yeah, no worries. Don't have imposter syndrome. That's just the way it goes as a software developer. Software developers, at the end of the day, they're problem solvers, and it's not realistic for people to think you know everything that's out there. In the last couple of years, as a freelancer, contractor, as a developer, I would go into projects with no expectations about what technology I would use for the job. I would assess the job, the requirements, and I would oftentimes use tech that I never used before. I would learn on the fly. So that's just normal. If you're well trained in your fundamentals, to learn new stuff on the fly, it's no big deal. Enjoy the Florida sunsets while you can. Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, up in Canada, where I'm from, come April, it's starting to get nice up there. And Florida is starting to get really hot. Like the sun is getting really hot, especially on my bald head. Oh, by the way, I'm going to do an impromptu poll. By the way, thanks for joining the stream. If you like the stream, please give me a thumbs up. Let the Google algorithm know that you like the stream. If you don't like this stream, give me 2 thumbs down to show people how much you hate me. Here's a funny story. So I was recently approached by a company out of Turkey, and they want to give me a free hair transplant. Should I do it? It's true. In Denmark, there are lots of C# and PHP jobs. There you go. Is it harder to freelance building sites from scratch versus using Wix, WordPress, Shopify, Webflow? Is it harder to freelance building sites? Yeah, Peter, you find that a lot of the work out there is going to be using WordPress and Wix and Shopify and Webflow. There's nothing wrong with that. All that matters is that you just keep becoming more efficient in terms of how you deliver your work, and you make more money. So yeah, AI is useful early on, but you can end up fighting with it. Exactly, yeah. AI is an assistive tool. It's there to assist you. You use it here and there, but you got to know what you're doing. You know, the people who get the maximum use of the AI are the people who know what they're doing, because they're able to ask the right questions, extract what they need, and they're able to catch when the AI messes up. Marlon says, as a dev, how to stop product from spending engineering budget on the over engineering? Well, that's where you have to have a good project manager, a good senior developer is supposed to take care of that. Hey, Bruce, what's up? Yeah, after my stream, I'm gonna make myself a nice coffee. That's pretty much it. Hey, Eric, how are you? It's been a minute. Yeah. I haven't been doing my streams for whatever reasons. No, I'll get back on it. Thank you for the answer. Is Tailwind okay? Yeah, I know people in my mentoring group, for example, they love Tailwind. Lots of thoughts I've read saying it's so messy, classics error. I agree, Bootstrap meh, since Grid is okay. Yeah, I've never used Tailwind, although as I said, one of the guys who graduated from my bootcamp, shameless plug, he works for an international company now, and I don't know if they I don't know if they use Tailwind on that project, but he loves Tailwind. I'm not a Tailwind guy. I'm not saying it's bad or good. Not all phone hardware is the same. Broke my screen on phone, hopped to HDMI, but looked into it and it doesn't support display. In my country, yeah, what you find, Android is less consistent than iPhone, right? Because you got all these different manufacturers creating Android devices. So I'm assuming, World Philippines, that you have an Android device. Let me know. Mobox says, in my country, most of their jobs are full stack with C# or Java. Do you have paths covering any of them on your courses? No, I have a totally different approach. I teach the full stack. So I teach HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript. I teach PHP. I also teach SQL, bit in databases. I teach the fundamentals. Once you have that, then for you to pivot into C# or Java will be much easier, much more quickly than if, for example, you just decide to start learning Java as your first language or C# from scratch, which I wouldn't recommend, because there's a lot more going on in those languages. So it's good to get into the coding ring, the programming ring, with easier to understand languages like a JavaScript, like a PHP, like a Python. Enrique Martin. Hey there, Uncle Steph. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I'm interested in doing your courses. Apart from your course, I really want to meet some software developers in person. Where can I find someone? Well, there might be some local development groups in your area. You may want to join Discord. I have a Discord server, by the way, links below. It's pretty active. A few thousand people on there, so you may want to join that. I know it's not in person, but you know. I have, in my mentoring group, we have bi-weekly live coaching sessions on, not Google Meets, but it will come to me. And we have live video Zoom, there we go. We have Zoom calls every other week live. I'm always there, so it's almost like meeting in person. Next phone I buy will support HDMI displays. As a lot of WhatsApp contacts, I think I'm ghosting them. We'll have to use USB into it when I have time. Ah, there you go, there you go. Hey, Steph. Hey, Steph, how important is security in a website? And have you used JWT? Well, security is very important, but that usually comes down to your database more than anything else, and also the server being locked down. So, high season, understand, definitely not pro without the blur. No blur, not pro. If you're watching a coding channel and if they don't have blurry hands in their live streams, they're definitely not pro. Do you think there is any advantage for application developer to know in depth about logic gates, hardware, and low-level code? Probably not. Probably not. If you want to get an advantage as an application developer, learn how to use AI effectively. Learn to communicate well, good soft skills. Understand, assuming you're talking about web apps, learn the basics of web servers, and databases. Yeah, so no, logic gates, hardware, and low-level code, not too important most of the time. If I was in the field, I would be screwed, so it's useful for factory installs. Have rugged hard drive, VMs. Yeah. I meant JS frameworks. Yeah, JS frameworks. Again, those are need to nerd technologies. JS frameworks, need to nerd. MVC frameworks, need to nerd. They're powerful, they're effective, but you may not use them, What is the most recent event you can remember that had people in the same mindset as they are this year so far regarding the job market and state of software engineering? I can't think of the most recent, I don't know, but one I remember is when, I'm going to go back, when WordPress came about and content management systems became mainstream, all the web designers started having kittens. They started crying and having nervous breakdowns, and they had to get therapists, and they had to get support animals because they were worried that the whole web design trade, the job, would disappear. Nothing could be further from the truth. All that happened is that you had this big explosion of WordPress-based sites, and it just shifted to work. So static-only sites started disappearing for sure, but it just got replaced with WordPress sites, which were just as much work, if not much more work, but you got a lot more out of it. So yeah, don't worry. That's just one example. What's another example I can think of? Oh, when web apps came about, prior to web app development, like there used to be this big industry of Visual Basic 5, Visual Basic 6 development for Windows. This was like, it was Microsoft's RAD language and tool set. So you drag and drop, create apps, business apps, and then you compile them and you have to distribute them across your network, install them on each computer. And then when the web came around, eventually it killed that. So all those developers, those VB6 developers, those jobs are pretty much all gone. But they were replaced with web apps, and the industry is still growing. So that you're going to see that shift again. So VB, the death of thick client development for Windows, to a large extent, was killed by, or not killed, but really damaged pretty hard by the web. You don't see too much VB6 development. I'm sure there's VB6 jobs out there, that's for sure, but it's tiny compared to what it used to be. So there's two examples I gave you right off the top of my head, and yeah, don't worry about it. Should I learn low-level programming language like C++? If you want to do C++ coding. Listen, if you're looking to choose a language or technology, this is what you do. Step number one, you look at what it's about. Just sample it. Try like a hello world and a little bit more C++ tutorial, so you get a feel for what it is, just the basics. And then start doing searches on Reddit or ChatGPT. What kind of work do you do with C++? What are you doing? Are you doing device drivers? Or you're writing the gaming engines, and just figure out whether you like that type of programming, because C++ programming is very different from, say, Python programming in the sense of the type of work that you do, which is very different from, say, PHP programming in terms of the type of work that you do. And then if you decide that you like C++ type of development, then start looking and studying the job market. Look at what the jobs are like in that specialization. How are we doing here? 1 hour. All right, guys. Audio is getting crazy. Oh, no, David. Okay, hold on. Just going through some questions here. The JRS framework that you choose, James, really has a lot to do with the job at hand. Let's see. Moback says, I used Tailwind at my job. It was difficult for the first few days, but got much better quickly, and it's much quicker than vanilla CSS, but it takes some getting used to. Strong CSS fundamentals is recommended. Of course, of course. How much SQL is enough to start applying for a database administration job? Whoa, no. You have to know your SQL fairly well, but how much you have to know, it depends on the particular job, what they're looking for, you know? What do you think about HTMX? I looked at it briefly. It looks interesting. It's very new, so I'm not sure how much adoption is going to be there. Bare minimum portfolio projects, or can the cost of a hosting portfolio be skipped? I'm not sure what you mean by that. As Stefan Mishik, isn't what they call AI today really just machine learning rather than actual AI? Welcome back home. I'm not home yet. I'll be home soon. Unless you're meaning welcome back to the streams. Yeah, AI today, it's not intelligent. It's predictive models. They don't think. They just predict what's going to be the next likely word based on the context of the question. So it's not actually logical. That's why I can go off on these hallucinations all the time. All right, but it's getting there. I'll end with this question here. I am from Europe. Is it better to use Windows or Linux as an OS in programming? They're all good, man. They're all good. You can write good apps in any of the main operating systems, Windows, Linux, Mac OS. Sometimes, depending on the type of programming that you do, you may want to use one or the other. So if you're writing .NET, you're probably better off in Windows, right? What programming language increases my chances with the ladies? The one that makes you the most money. All right. Thanks for joining the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to spread the word, like and share. And if you have any questions that I haven't answered on the stream, feel free to post them under the video. I'll leave it up online. You can join my Discord below. And yeah. Okay, what's God saying here? I find that programming 2044 is more tiring than coding and knives. It might be time to retire. Could be. Too many online ladies are AI. Yeah. All right, guys. It's over an hour. I'm going to lose my voice here, so I have to let you go. Thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Hey, hi, Season. Thanks for joining. I guess you guys are not making it down to Florida this time. I will be back in Canada in 3 weeks. All right, we'll talk soon. Cheers. Stefan Mishuk, red pill. No. You don't have to take no pills to know that. Yeah. All right, dudes. We'll talk soon. Thanks for joining. I'll leave you with my my ASMR boat Cape. I forget where it is. I went to Maine. I took this video. We'll talk soon.